Today's Total Soccer Show is sponsored by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people like runners, cyclists, weightlifters, and vegetarians get lower rates on their life insurance. Go to healthiq.com/TSS to support the show and to see if you qualify. healthiq.com/TSS. Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove. I'm joined by a man who's a disgrace. His name is Taylor Rockwell.
Wow. I know what you're alluding to. Still harsh. Still harsh.
Yeah, it hurts, right?
Yeah.
Didier Drogba. It hurts when people call you a disgrace.
But at least you kept it above board.
Family friendly.
Yeah, we didn't have to do any edits right away. Thank you
friendly.
for that.
So obviously I referenced Chelsea-Barcelona.
Yeah.
Because today we had Chelsea-Barcelona in the round of 16. It was the Champions League first leg.
For me, it's not really Chelsea-Barcelona until Michael Ballack runs the length of the field screaming at the center official. We didn't get that today, surprisingly.
But we did get a couple of nice goals and a couple of bad passes.
We did.
Is that fair?
It is definitely fair.
So, spoiler alert, it finished Chelsea 1, Barca 1. Chelsea scored in the second half. Barca equalised after a Chelsea mistake. Before we dig into the goals, you want to get into the tactics?
Sure.
Because I thought what Chelsea did was quite interesting, which was they were sort of more conservative than expected.
They certainly were.
Because the screen said 3-4-3, the screen mostly lied.
The screen mostly lied. The screen mostly should have shown 5-4-1.
Yes, Victor Moses was a right back.
And I
right?
have the final stats in front of me. It was 67% possession for
really?
Barcelona. I'm going to assume that after they scored, they went ahead and sat back for those final 15 minutes.
Yes.
Chelsea probably had more of the ball, but I think at halftime it was about 80-20,
No,
like 79-21.
It was 70-30.
Okay.
Yeah, 70-30.
It's still a lot. And I think that was representative of the way the two teams approached this game.
80-20, you're thinking of Man City Wigan,
Okay.
the FA Cup game, which we will mention towards the back of today's show.
There we go.
So we had a good look at what Chelsea were doing to essentially keep Barcelona at bay, and it was kind of interesting. I think you spotted it, so I don't want to steal your thunder.
Sure. I mean, so you basically had the back three of Rudiger, Christensen playing in the middle, more on him in a little bit, and Azpilicueta, a.k.a. Dave. And those three center backs, it seems like we're allowed to have a little bit of freedom, but most of the time we're focused on condensing, coming together, and blocking off the middle, specifically when Leo Messi had the ball.
Right.
I felt like their number one goal was to not let Leo Messi dribble through and always keep him either shunted out wide or frustrated through the middle.
Yeah, it was like Leo Messi was dangerous, and it's like you close all the windows and put put blankets under the doors and stop everything. Don't let any Leo Messi through.
Yeah, and I think part of that was also, like, to your point, close the window, stop him, but don't overcommit, don't dive in, because we know that's where he kind of thrives, is when people start throwing their bodies in. He can avoid that really easily.
So they just did numbers instead of man marking. They just had essentially Conte and who's the other central midfielder? Fabregas just held the middle, and then you had those three centre backs and just challenged him to, if you want to run at five people, go for it, Leo Messi.
And so you did see Leo Messi start to kind of come deeper at times to try to get the ball, and even then you wouldn't necessarily see Conte or Fabregas like on him all the time man marking, but they were consistently adjusting themselves so that he never was able to get the ball cleanly. He always had to move a little bit more. He never got the ball just standing still. It always required a little bit of adjustment from Leo Messi.
And you would think if a team was playing 5-4-1, essentially, because Moses and Alonso were essentially right back and left back instead of their usual farther forward, and the wide guys, Willian and Pedro, were essentially right and left mid instead of being part of the forward line. You would think that one striker then would be someone you want to hold the ball up. You would think maybe Morata, maybe Giroud. But I think the clever thing that Antonio Conte did was pick Eden Hazard instead.
Absolutely. Because, number one, he can drop in and help out defensively if need be, but also he has...
So it becomes like a 5-5 when he comes back.
But I think for the most part it was him staying a little bit higher, and he has the technical ability and, most importantly, the pace to be able to settle the ball, drive at the defense, and then, more often than not, it was Willian going full speed forward to try to get in there with him. So you would see those occasional
and Pedro can do it
chances
as well, right? So you've essentially got three guys who can break at pace. But I agree with you that Hazard and Willian were the much more threatening.
Yeah, and so I think that was a really smart plan from Antonio Conte. I think it was smart.
It almost worked. It would have got away with it if it wasn't for you pesky Leo Messis. And Andres Iniestas.
Yeah, and a couple other people in there too. But it was also that in that 5-4-1, when you look at the four, we talked about Willian and Pedro, but you would see them kind of dropping in to form like a flat line, but one on the outside. If Willian went, Pedro was like dropping in and shifting over to the middle.
Oh, it was very
organized.
Block it out.
It was really disciplined, which I guess should not be that big of a surprise.
And then, as well as Hazard on the break, you've got the secret weapon that is Willian's quick feet and quick thinking and great shooting. And it got Busquets once, fooled him once, shame on him. Fool him twice, even more shame on him, and a goal.
Yes.
That's not the exact quote. But.
It's tricky, though, because I don't disagree with you. Willian had a good game, scored the goal, hit the post twice. But there is that age-old debate of, is hitting the post a good shot? I don't know. But when it comes about the way it came about, which was him embarrassing Busquets and making really quick little moves to create that little bit of separation to get that shot off, I think it's an especially impressive game.
So so the first time he hits the post is he's up against Busquets and he sort of, I think you noticed that as soon as Busquets made a sort of a move to readjust himself, Willian just had this quick touch it away, hit the post. Okay, so maybe not so much credit, but if later on,
him up with a jab, basically.
Later on he does a similar-ish thing and hits the target and scores, then we know that this is something that Willian is working on, and was eventually going to score.
He found his range.
He treated Barcelona like they were Hull City.
I think you made that joke and then asked me not to tweet it out.
I was saving it for the podcast.
But you're absolutely right that I think he kind of found his range, and I think for the goal, his setup touch before he has the shot was just a little bit further out, so I think he's able to get a little bit more hip around it to put more of a bend on it, because at first it just looked like, oh wow, he put it in far side, nobody was there. You watch that replay, and there's a lot of bend to bend it around the defenders.
Again, like his third goal, or the last goal he scored against Hull City, there's more bend on it than meets the eye.
Yeah. So 1-0 to Chelsea.
Yes.
Seems like it's going exactly how they want it to.
But could we just talk about why was Willian open to begin with?
Sure.
Because if you watch, it's a short corner from Chelsea, right? And they've won a corner. I think their first corner of the whole game.
I think you're right.
They take it short, and Willian ends up being free at the top of the box, right? And I think Iniesta was supposed to mark him, but then got drawn into that short corner business. And that was sort of a little breakdown in how Barcelona was set up. Because if Willian's hit the post twice from the top of the box, you wouldn't be deliberately leaving him open at the top of the box.
It's tough to see because they keep cutting away to show replays or show close-ups of players. Later on in the game when there's another corner, it looks like Luis Suarez has come back with Willian. I don't think he was around when that goal was scored, so maybe it's his failure to come back. To your point, though, about Andres Iniesta, Chelsea take that corner short. Barca have two players there to deal with it, so it is 2-on-2. But it does look like Andres Iniesta has come over to try to block off that pass to Willian and then also make sure that basically it's a 3v2 situation as opposed to an even numbers.
But then a bit of Hazard dribbling and they get out.
It's a little bit of Hazard dribbling and a little bit of, I think, the further out you go, the less aware you are of what's happening behind you. And so in this case, Iniesta drops back a little bit towards the touchline, basically, and initially was blocking off that pass to Willian. When he moves inside, suddenly that pass is back on. Suddenly that pass is delivered. Suddenly it's a goal.
It certainly is. But it only lasts, maybe 12, 13 minutes before Barcelona get themselves an equaliser.
Sure.
Yeah?
Again, it's all alluding to upon first viewing, it's a very bad pass from Andreas Christensen. After Luis Suarez is complaining, he thinks there's contact. I guess there was. It didn't seem like it should have been a penalty. Either way, Chelsea moved the ball around a little bit. They're in their defensive third. They're over by their corner flag. I think Christensen...
Scouting network member, Christensen.
Yeah. I think he doesn't want to play it long for the reasons we've discussed. You don't have a big hold-up man, and also you're then going to lose the ball, give the ball right back to Barcelona. Yeah. He spots Cesc Fabregas in the middle of the field, more or less unmarked.
Messi's loosely at his back, but Fabregas was open, right?
He was, but I think Christensen maybe just telegraphs that pass a little bit too much. So when he hits it, you do have Leo Messi closing just a little bit, not aggressively trying to intercept the ball.
He wasn't going to get there before Fabregas, but I think if Fabregas did receive it, then he would have had Messi on his back immediately.
Or he would have had to take it back into the path of Leo Messi.
Yeah.
Either way, it's enough for Fabregas to think, I'll let it run by me. It's shades of the Man City goal, or the Man City concession, rather. Let it run by me. I'm sure somebody else will be there to pick it up. Maybe he doesn't see how fast the ball is moving. Maybe he just thinks Azpilicueta will be there to pick up the ball. Either way, he lets it run. Azpilicueta, meanwhile, I think, thinks that Fabregas is going to take a touch, so he does the modern center back thing of spread wide to receive the pass. So he's backpedaling when that ball goes through. So suddenly Fabregas thinks somebody else is going to get it. Azpilicueta is backpedaling.
Andres Iniesta has been reading the whole thing and just thinks, this is my moment. I'm going to burst through and win this ball. It's exactly what he does, right? Azpilicueta has a desperate slide to almost get there, but Iniesta's there first and he's away. Not really down the wing, right? Down the outside of the area.
Yeah. And plays the ball back to Leo Messi. Leo Messi finishes one time. Credit to Andres Iniesta for putting it perfectly on Leo Messi's left foot. He just instep finishes it.
Yeah. Credit to Messi, the way he kind of just held off a little bit. He didn't crash the box. Luis Suarez did. And I want to say that's not drawn up and planned, but it seems to be their dynamic, right? Like Suarez is on the shoulders of the defenders the whole time, and it allows Messi to sit a little bit underneath.
In this case, I think Suarez was still standing appealing for a penalty, and so he hadn't moved. And so, no, really, like he hadn't moved, and he was standing there, and basically Iniesta takes that touch, and Suarez is already at the top of the 6-yard box. So he's there. But I think you're absolutely right, credit to Leo Messi, because when you're a defender and you're scrambling to get back into position, you're scrambling. And so if a player runs through, you're going to see them and instinctively you're going to try to mark that player. But you're maybe not going to be thinking, okay, I got to get back into position, but I've also got to survey the field and see where everybody is. So Leo Messi just delaying a little bit lets that space open up, and then he can occupy that space as everybody else is scrambling. And it's a goal.
So shall we apportion blame? Because I mean, so we've really recorded not long after the game is over. My guess is that the story will be that it was a terrible Andres Christensen giveaway that gave Barcelona the equalising goal, not least because earlier in the game he really does have a quite bad giveaway that leads to a corner kick, right? Not a giveaway, just a bad pass. He puts it straight out of bounds for a corner kick.
Yeah, and again, that's him feeling the pressure a little bit. He recognizes that if he doesn't play the ball exactly when he needs to play it, it's going to be intercepted, and with that pressure, he plays it out of bounds. It felt a little similar in this sequence.
So is it all Christensen's fault?
No.
It's not?
No.
So is it all Cech's fault?
It's a combination.
Not receiving the ball?
It is a significant majority Christensen and Fabregas, a tiny bit Azpilicueta, maybe just for not communicating. But Fabregas could have
100% Iniesta.
Yes. But I think Fabregas could have gotten a touch on the ball.
Yeah, definitely. He could have received it.
He could have. I think there is an argument to be made that he would have had to adjust his body because it is played behind him, basically. And that might have then led to a heavy touch or an awkward reception, which could have then had the ball taken off of him.
Yeah.
But still, I think
fortune favours the brave.
You've got to do something, or at least you've got to scream like, "I'm leaving this ball," so that Azpilicueta knows and steps.
So it finishes 1-1. We're giving all the credit to Iniesta and Messi here, but there's a play 30 seconds before that equalising goal where Willian has a break and has the chance to square it to N'Golo Kante to make it 2-0 to Chelsea. Gerard Piqué absolutely is the hero of this moment. If you can see footage of this, Piqué manages to defend Willian and prevent the square ball and then tackle Willian and send the ball back at the other end of the Barcelona scored directly from that, but that was absolutely a moment where he came up big.
He makes that play, Barcelona get the ball back, Barcelona launch the ball long, that's where there's the Suarez penalty shout, and from there it leads to the turnover. Right. So it's pretty much direct, And it is incredibly impressive because I think for the 5th Bayern Munich goal against Besiktas, we'll get to that game in a little bit. I mean, it's an inch-perfect ball that bends around the defense to the back post, and it's Thomas Muller, Robert Lewandowski is there. And that ball is on. That's the ball that Willian is looking for to play to N'Golo Kante. And Gerard Piqué just steps deeper than maybe you would think he needs to. But in reality,
it looks like he's giving Willian too much space to run, right? But you see him check his shoulder and literally look at N'Golo Kante before he does it. So we are certain that he is deliberately cutting out the pass.
I mean, and he takes the exact right angle, and you can see him checking and checking and checking while running at full speed to make sure he's got himself in the exact right position. And he absolutely did.
I love
and then it's a great tackle, too.
It is, right? It's a sort of step lunge type thing. But I love when we can sort of highlight really smart, really good defending that I think other places will maybe not pick up on that because they're not as in love with centre-backs as I am.
Yeah, that's probably fair. But it's the type of tackle that, like, you just, when you're the attacker, you want it to be a foul so badly, and you know it's not.
Yeah.
But it's just
it looks weirdly clumsy, right? But
it looks weirdly clumsy, but it's also, you're in a one-on-one situation, you should back yourself. You've now lost the ball, they're going the other way. It just feels like you want to be like, but he fouled me, even though he didn't. But he should have, right? He should have, though.
And I think the reason it looked weird is because he was doing two things at once. Piqué's defending can be two things.
His hips don't lie is what he learned from Shakira.
Unlike his wife.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, shall we move on to talk about the other game of the day? Because we have a trend here in the office, which is we put one game, the two simultaneous Champions League games for the past couple of weeks, one game on the big screen. Today was Barcelona-Chelsea. Tends to be interesting, tactical, couple goals here and there, right? The game on the lower screen is a blowout every time. It was Man City 4-0. It was Liverpool 5-0. Today, it was Bayern Munich 5, Besiktas 0.
Yeah, the major difference, I guess, in this one was at least Bayern were at home, so it wasn't away fans being upset by the result, but they were still probably upset by the result.
Did you expect this? I expected this to be a lot closer.
I thought it would still be like Bayern by a couple
charisma.
goals.
I thought some charisma magic.
I thought Besiktas would maybe keep it a little bit closer, but lest we forget, there was a red card in the 16th minute.
Yeah.
That changes things considerably.
Okay, so that is where this game sort of falls apart for Besiktas, right? Because playing against Bayern with 10 men is always tough.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that red card. It was Vida, the Croatian centre-back for Besiktas, who essentially tries to slide tackle Robert Lewandowski, and he's a little too late and a little too hard. He ends up putting his sliding leg between Lewandowski's legs as he's running, and I think he's just sent off for denial of goal-scoring opportunity.
Yeah.
Not so much dangerous play, but...
That would be my guess. Yeah. It is outside the box, so it doesn't end in a penalty, but it is last man. And you can understand what he's doing there because it's a bad pass from Atiba Hutchinson, basically played into space.
Too casual, right? He didn't check his shoulder, he didn't look around, he just one-timed it thinking it was nice and comfortable.
Yeah. And so you can especially see it on the final replay, I think, when it's the angle from behind as you see Vida chasing Lewandowski, and you can see the just half second where he thinks, I might be able to get this. And I think he's going for the dive in, slide tackle, and just poke the ball away.
Yeah.
And he basically does all of that, except that the ball is then gone, and instead he gets Robert Lewandowski's trailing foot.
He certainly does. Besiktas hold on for a good half an hour or so, right? Then Bayern scored just before half-time.
I'm going to say Bayern figure them out, is what I'm going to say.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
You did have right before the Bayern goal, Besiktas fans, I think, booing or whistling at Bayern for just keeping possession and moving the ball. And we watched that, as you said, on the lower screen. We watched the highlights of the goals to make sure we have a good read on it. But my guess would be that if you went back and watched that, it is a lot of Bayern moving the ball around, probing, trying to find areas of vulnerability.
I mean, for example, the fifth goal is Mats Hummels, Bayern centre-back, has advanced so far with the ball that he's having a shot from about 20 yards.
I think that's the fourth goal. But
okay,
I'm with you as well.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think
that's how much up on top of them Bayern were.
And that's definitely a good indicator. But I would say the other key indicator is the fact that at least 3, if not 4 of the 5 goals, you have a Besiktas player with a hand in the air, and I think Bayern just figured they're not keeping a very organized back line. We will make them pay.
Wobbly. It was wobbly.
Yes.
Yeah. The first one, it's Adriano, number 3. He gets beat at the end line, and then appeals for offside, even though he's at the end line.
Even though when he puts his arm in the air, it's Kingsley Coman who ends up scoring it. Kingsley Coman is goal side of him.
No, Coman cuts it back. It comes off Alaba, and then I believe Thomas Muller scores it. But it was Coman who had absolutely beaten Adriano to the end line.
Yes. I'm sorry. Coman scores the second, my mistake. But and I love that Alaba gets the assist for that one. But he's then basically standing there as Muller is in an onside position, calling for offside, and very sheepishly lowers that hand when I think he realizes this one's on me.
So I don't think we need to go through all 5 Bayern Munich goals, but let's just say a lot of them, Besiktas offside line to blame. Maybe don't try it if you can't do it.
No, I think definitely don't, and especially when I think it was Gary Medel started as a holding midfielder. When Vida goes out, Gary Medel drops back.
Yeah.
They didn't make any changes until midway through the second half, Besiktas, so I think they thought we've got the personnel there that we want to be there.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, when you're a man down to Bayern Munich, it's always going to be problematic.
Rough day for Pepe playing centre back.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely so. And it is disappointing because I do think if you had those legs switched around and Besiktas were at home, you didn't have that red card.
I think Pepe's legs.
No, I think you'd have a much more compelling game. But red cards are red cards. It's always going to be problems.
So here's a question. Will the Besiktas Stadium be as full and noisy and up for it as when they played Leipzig and Timo Werner his ears couldn't take it? 5-0 down? I mean, cause I'm asking you because you lived in Istanbul. I thought you have a read on those fans. Are they still going to show up for the big Bayern game?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because it's all about...
Because they've already bought tickets?
It's about reputation as well, that you want to show that you support the team. But it definitely probably won't be as... loud and intimidating and terrifying as it might otherwise be. Put it this way, if it was 1-0 going back to Istanbul, you would have Besiktas fans meeting the Bayern team at the airport. I bet you don't have that this time. Or if you do, it's only a few. It's far less intimidating than the welcome to hell signs.
And I'm actually interested to see what Bayern do, because as with Man City, it gives you a chance to maybe give the sort of younger or less experienced players a bit of a run out for Bayern.
That said, on the bench were Robin and Ribéry, so maybe you give your older, more experienced players some minutes.
True.
Yeah.
It's very possible. Beckenbauer's going to play
in
that game. All right, we've still got the FA Cup game to talk about. Wigan's famous, I'm going to say, win over Manchester City.
Sure.
Infamous if you're Manchester City.
That's probably,
But first, today's show is sponsored by Health IQ, an insurance company that helps health-conscious people get lower rates on their life insurance. If you go to healthiq.com/TSS, you can support the show and see if you qualify.
Daryl, do you happen to have any examples of like health-conscious people, like what they might be? Like, for example, cyclists and weightlifters?
Runners, weightlifters, vegetarians. Okay, those guys are all in the copy points, but there are many other ways to be a health-conscious person. You could be a soccer player.
Eat McDonald's every day?
No, do not do that.
Okay.
Do not do that.
Just sit at home and play video games.
Do not do that.
Okay.
You don't qualify.
Some sort of physical activity.
I'm going to be contacting Health IQ and sending them a picture of you saying, do not give this man lower rates on his life insurance. He talks about McDonald's and video games all the time.
That seems unnecessarily harsh, but I appreciate it. That's
so
fair.
What you can do is, if say you are a runner, right, you can send them your most recent race record.
Okay.
Like, it's got to be official. You can't just write it down and say, yeah, I ran the marathon in 10 minutes.
I ran marathon in 10 minutes. Yeah. Perfect.
But you can send them, like, you can send them the page with your time from, say, the Richmond Marathon or the Monument Avenue 10K. I only know Richmond races.
I think the only person who could cover 26 miles in 10 minutes is Winston Wolfe. There you go.
Who's Winston Wolfe?
Harvey Keitel's character from Pulp Fiction. It's 30 minutes away. I'll be there in 10. There you go.
You can also send them, if you're not Winston Wolfe, and he drives as well, right? So you can also send them your Fitbit data if you go for runs. So they will accept data like that as evidence of your healthy lifestyle. You can also go to the healthiq.com/TSS website and do one of the healthy quizzes.
Important to go to that actual web address, right? Not just go to Google, search Health IQ, and then click that link.
healthiq.com/TSS. All right, Taylor. People know the drill by now.
Yep.
I've got you lined up for it. There's always a quiz of the day that you can take. Today's quiz, Taylor Rockwell, is healthy habits, how to kickstart your healthy day.
Eat an Egg McMuffin.
Let's be honest.
Sausage McMuffin with egg?
How healthy is your day when you kickstart it? When you get up, what's your breakfast? What's your routine?
My breakfast is usually eggs, but there's like cheese and cream in there, so probably not as healthy as it could be.
It's not so bad.
Low carbs, theoretically?
I guess it is.
Yeah.
I guess it is. All right, should we find out then?
Sure.
We're going to start the quiz. Let's go. Scraping what can reduce oral bacteria, reducing risk of periodontal disease and halitosis?
My options are tongue, septum, epiglottis, and uvula. I will say tongue.
Is that because that's the only one that you know what it is?
Nope, I know all those things, my friend.
Tongue is correct. All right, next up.
Except for epiglottis. I forgot that one.
Which trendy morning habit thought to kickstart digestion might actually contribute to eroding teeth enamel over time? Is it oil pulling, joint flossing, drinking lemon water, or dynamic stretching? I'm not sure how that last one got in there.
That one I don't know most of those. I'm going to say drinking lemon water because I'm going to assume you think it's healthy, but the acid is bad.
Correct. All right, one more. You're going to be 3 for 3, but if you keep going this way.
Theoretically.
According to research, doing what before an attention-based task can help reduce anxiety and improve focus the most? Is it 10 minutes of movie watching before an attention-based task? 10 minutes of audiobook listening? I'm laughing because these are all things that you do. 10 minutes of breathing? 10 minutes of left brain activation?
See, this is again where I reveal my ignorance because I don't know which one is the creative side, but I'm going to say left brain. Let's do it, left brain. Left shark never failed us. Left brain won't either. Left brain failed us.
It was 10 minutes of breathing. But I want to personally give you credit for knowing that it wasn't 10 minutes of a movie or 10 minutes of an audiobook.
I did ponder, that would spark your creative side, but then you have to stay focused, so maybe that wouldn't work so well. I should have just gone breathing. That's the obvious answer.
I think it was.
Plus, I don't even know how to activate one half of my brain over the other.
Well, as Meatloaf said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Also, don't eat meatloaf in the morning.
You've used that one a couple times. I'm curious, if I go 1 for 3, do you have an equally appropriate quotation?
I will next time.
1 for 3 is bad.
I'll do some research. All right, to see if you qualify, get your free quote today at healthiq.com/TSS. Or if you call Health IQ on the phone, mention the promo code TSS. So it's healthiq.com/TSS. The link will be in the show notes for your lower rate on life insurance.
Thank you to Health IQ for sponsoring today's program. We've talked about the Champions League. Should we talk about a cup of a different type?
We will.
All right.
The oldest cup. The FA Cup. We all thought Man City would roll Wigan over. It didn't happen.
It did not?
It finished Wigan 1, Manchester City 0. I didn't watch this live, and honestly, one of the reasons I didn't watch this live is I thought Man City would roll Wigan over, even with a slightly second-string 11. But it was still pretty impressive 11, right? It had David Silva in it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it was like David Silva, Gundogan, I think Aguero started. I might be wrong on that one. I mean, so you still had some of the starters, and then most of the bench for Man City or the second string would still be first string for most clubs.
Yep.
So it balances out.
Yep. I also thought it would be a game where like Phil Foden would get half an hour after Man City were 2-0 up. I was all excited for that.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
No,
because of Will Grigg.
And
Will Grigg's on fire.
You could see Pep Guardiola after Will Grigg scored being very angry, and I'm sure part of that was like coaches coming into the wrong technical area and whatever else. But I also think this is the type of loss that makes Pep Guardiola the most upset. And it's basically because I think you spotted this one, is that Wigan goal comes from Man City just kind of like letting things slip for about 30 seconds, and that's all it takes. And I really think Pep Guardiola, who is all about focus 100% of the time.
Oh, Man City letting things slip.
Yeah, you've got to be on the ball all the time. You can't switch off. If you switch off, you die. And in this situation, they switched off for 30 seconds. Ball's in the back of the net, but for the wrong team if you're Pep Guardiola.
Because you mentioned earlier it was 80% possession to 20% for Manchester City. And just if you're not familiar with possession stats, I know in some ways they kind of don't mean anything, but 80% means that one team had the ball most of the time. I'm just saying that's when you get to crazy territory of possession.
Like the most we've ever seen was what, like 87-13, and that was Argentina versus
Bolivia at the Copa America Centenario. Yeah, so 80-20 is huge, and it just means that Man City were circulating the ball, essentially just trying to pick Wigan apart, because Wigan had everybody behind the ball except for Will Grigg, just sort of up there on his own, ready to break. And they just invited Man City to come break them down. So what happens is the ball pops to Kyle Walker, right? He's under a little bit of pressure from, Jacobs, I believe the player's name is, number 17. And Walker just lets it run behind him because he assumes, I can just let this ball under my foot. Yep. Then it'll go back to Stones or Laporte, the two centre-backs, and we'll recycle possession and we'll start again and we'll go at them again. But when Walker lets that ball run, he doesn't know that the man on fire, it's like the girl on fire from Hunger Games, is going to sprint after it.
Yeah, this sequence is so confusing to me. We've watched it so many times. And I really thought that all of the Man City team just thought, like, oh, he must be offside. Or like, maybe they're all confused for a second and thought he was a Man City player. I don't really understand. But, like, once not Danny Rose.
Kyle Walker?
Thank you. Lets the ball go through his legs. He definitely accelerates, but he doesn't really check to see is anybody there. And the one that really throws me off is Aymeric Laporte, who really kind of jogs until a certain point is like, oh, he's going to score a goal. And then he accelerates. By then it's too late, so he has to make that last-ditch slide tackle, but doesn't block the ball, doesn't even get really close because the ball's already in the back of the net.
I would also ask questions of Stones, who was marking Will Grigg. He was right next to Will Grigg and should have had him as he made that break.
I would say again, he might be...
He's just waiting for the ball to come to him so he can, start passing the ball around.
Except that he is... like not goal side when that turnover happens. And I actually think he might be the only one who's doing what Pep Guardiola wants, which is like playing fast. Like I think John Stones is trying to push into Wigan's half to get that ball from Kyle Walker, and then he can drive forward, play the ball forward. And so I think he's pushing on while Kyle Walker lets it run behind. I'm going to guess Kyle Walker gets an earful or already got one. And we'll get a few more this week.
So what do you think about Laporte then? Why didn't he sort of sprint harder and get there faster? Did you maybe assume that Kyle Walker's going to get there?
I think so. I think he assumed that Kyle Walker was either going to get there or at least push Will Grigg inside, so then Laporte was there. I still, outside of that, I really don't know, because he really, unless that is close to his top speed, in which case, that's a problem. Because if you watch it, he is not moving at top speed. So I think maybe he just thinks, oh, it's Wigan, they haven't done much, Will Grigg will dribble inside, I'll get it, or Kyle will get it, we'll be fine. That is not what happened. I think
that was part of the whole mindset. That was part of the problem. The other thing that happened is obviously Fabian Delph was sent off. I mean, that really wasn't a problem for Man City because they still had a load of the ball after that.
That was right at the end of the first half.
Yeah, so it's not really directly to blame for the goal, right?
No, but I think a correct sending off. We watched the replay a few different times. There was some complaint. I don't think Man City are going to be appealing it, so that says something.
It was dangerous play, right? His foot was off the floor, and it ended up not being as bad as it could have been, but that was just luck, right? The actual shape of where his foot goes is extremely dangerous. It's worth the red card. I say that as a Fabian Delph fan. I'm a big admirer of Fabian Delph's game.
You're a big admirer of any English players, let's be real. And any English defenders, I think, even more so. Here is one thing, though, before we move on, where I feel like I have, aged out of a certain level, or maybe just, not saying young people all feel this way, but young Taylor loved a pitch invasion. Was like, that's the magic of the cup, everybody run on there, celebrate. yesterday I did have this feeling of like, who are these hooligans?
So the Wigan fans that came on the field after?
Yeah, and especially because there's footage of Sergio Aguero getting into it with a fan. That footage kind of just makes it seem like he's trying to get to the tunnel. Someone's in his way. He's mad. He shoves the guy. It sounds like from the report that Man City filed, the fan yelled an obscenity and spat into his ear. And
some good aim.
Yeah, I guess so. But that would prompt a violent reaction, which I think is, in my opinion, then justified. Don't spit on somebody if you don't want to get shoved.
Or in someone. Don't spit in someone.
Also that. But also, I think Man City's appeal will be focused on, or just their complaint will be focused on the fact that I didn't see any people in yellow jackets trying to stop people from running onto the field. And it just felt like it was very weird to me to see so many players getting mobbed. I understand people want to celebrate, but it definitely had an air of like, this could go badly, right? Like this doesn't, and like I think one of them, maybe it was Will Grigg trying to walk into the tunnel, had people on either side, and they seemed to walk right in with him, and they seemed to be fans, so it felt like people were just kind of allowed to do whatever they wanted.
It was a little loose. It was a little loose.
But maybe that's just me being a grumpus.
Yeah, you've aged out. Yeah. You've aged out of the joys of giant killing. So Wigan 1, Man City 0. Should say congrats to Wigan Athletic.
Humbug.
And the Man City quadruple is now no longer happening.
Yes, that was the thing that I'm sure we were all heavily focused on.
Speaking of heavily focused, let's get to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network.
Well done.
Lots of reports about young Americans have been coming in. I'm excited to get to them.
Alrighty.
First up, Tyler, who we got?
Kevin Morris, scouting Shaq Moore.
The Shaq Moore, the
21-year-old American right back for Levante. Shaq has not been getting minutes since Levante brought in veteran Spanish defender Koke from Schalke in December. However, reports suggest multiple teams in the Segunda Division are interested in a loan for Moore, which could be just the move he needs. I don't know what the rules are there, if that would have to be like an emergency loan or if the Segunda is allowed to loan players outside of the window.
Unless I'm missing something, I think Shaq Moore is stuck with the Levante non-matchday squad for the rest of the season.
And I still don't fully understand how emergency loans work. I think it's like if you can prove that you don't have cover in a specific position due to circumstances that are beyond your control. Okay, so then
if right backs start mysteriously disappearing in the Segunda, then something's up.
Yeah.
Michael Curry is scouting Haji Wright, the 19-year-old, he's now 19, American forward who is on loan at Sandhausen from Schalke. Haji Wright should be a name that people know by now. Michael says Haji Wright started for Sandhausen in place of injured team captain Nejmeddin Dagfaus, but was subbed off at half-time. It's difficult to tell if Wright is struggling or if the entire team isn't doing particularly well and lacks quality. Michael says supporters compare Sandhausen to being loaned to Sunderland, which is a great example and also a shot at the Black Cats.
Yeah, because it's basically you don't know if the whole team isn't performing well and thus one player won't make a difference or if one player is part of them not being able to make a difference. Either way, hopefully things turn around for Haji. Up next, Matthew Shattuck, scouting Connor Presley, the 19-year-old American midfielder for San Antonio. Presley got a goal and an assist in San Antonio's 3-2 preseason victory over the University of the Incarnate Word.
Okay.
All right. The teenager is an Austin native and was previously in the FC Dallas Academy, so he's done some Texas traveling. He will likely feature as a winger or attacking midfielder for San Antonio FC this coming season. So, 3 Texas cities. He's been in them all.
Orion Lekoski Escobar is scouting Tommy Thompson, choo-choo, all aboard the Tommy train, the 22-year-old American attacker for San Jose.
That is his official name now, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Orion says Tommy continued his great preseason by scoring a brace. Remember when Tommy Thompson couldn't score? In the 45 minutes he played against the LA Galaxy, leading the Quakes to a 4-2 victory. I've seen these goals and I cherish both of them.
Daryl is very happy with Tommy Thompson. Brendan Masser is, I think, happy with Marlon Fossey, the 19-year-old American right-sider for Fulham. Important distinction. The Fulham Premier League 2 side lost away to Stoke City's Premier League 2 side 4-1, but more remarkably, Fossey lined up in a new position. Fulham's website listed him as a right midfielder in a 3-4-3, but based on the match highlights that Brendan saw, Fossey was often in a more advanced position, more like a right winger or even a right forward. He did track back on defense, but his assignment did not appear to be the most advanced Stoke attacker or Fulham's right, so he was more of an attacking midfielder than right wing back.
Interesting. All right. Russell Pade is scouting Elias Omarsson, the 23-year-old Icelandic forward for IFK Göteborg.
Okay. You know how I knew he was Icelandic? Because of the Omarsson.
Yeah. After a rough 2017, Elias and Göteborg looked ready to split in January. But then he started to see real minutes and scored a few goals in the Swedish preseason. So things might be looking up for the youngster Elias Omarsson.
play well, go to a World Cup. Dylan Veach scouting Kai Havertz, the 18-year-old German midfielder for Bayer Leverkusen. Kai started and scored in Bayer's 2-1 victory over Hamburg this past weekend. Bobby Wood was sad. Playing as a number 10 in a 4-2-3-1, Kai received a squared pass from Benjamin Heinrichs and calmly put the ball in the back of the net. His sloppiness in midfield allowed Hamburg to spring the counter and score their one goal, but overall, Kai played very well and helped Bayer back into second place.
Was that the winner? Did he score the winner?
I think he scored the opener.
Okay.
I think.
All goals are good goals.
Yes.
Michael Thompson is scouting Chris Gloucester, the 17-year-old American midfielder for Unattached FC. I thought Gloucester was a fullback. Maybe he can do a bit of both. Maybe he's the new Marlon Fassi. Chris Gloucester, included in the news that Schalke has offered a contract to Zien Jones, just added to the scouting network, by the way, was the news that Gloucester, who was also on trial, will not be signing with the club. There is no additional news as to where he may be heading next, although it looks like it won't be back to Red Bull New York, despite being offered a homegrown deal. Is that kind of like Chris Gloucester burned that bridge and now New York are not going to rebuild that bridge for him?
Or he just very much wants to move to Europe and recognizes that signing for an MLS club will not necessarily facilitate that.
Right. So maybe he goes wandering looking for some trials.
Yeah. Andrew Jacques, also worth noting he is only 17. So
yes.
It could be that maybe when he's 18 he goes back and is
True.
able to sign. Andrew Jacques scouting Isaiah Parente, the 18-year-old American midfielder for Wake Forest. Isaiah Parente. The 18-year-old Crew Academy product has enrolled for the spring season at Wake Forest, turning down an offer to participate in the Columbus Crew preseason, where coach and sporting director Greg Berhalter has decided to hashtag play the kids, utilizing several academy invites thus far in preseason.
That seems like a mistake from Parente.
I guess maybe if you think you're going to get some minutes, but it's going to mess up your ability to play college soccer, it seems like maybe then he is focused on playing college soccer.
That feels like a conversation with his parents.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Someone saying, go to school for at least 1 year.
There's a chance we see him, that could be. There's also a chance we see him for Pittsburgh this summer, since they are the USL affiliate.
True. Ed Ritter is scouting Ben Mines, the 17-year-old American attacker for the Red Bulls. With the first team travelling to prepare for their CONCACAF Champions League match on Thursday, Ben was part of a team of reserves, academy kids and trialists that lost 5-0 to the Houston Dynamo, who mostly started first-team players. Mines played 65 minutes opposite DeMarcus Beasley and will likely see minutes against Portland in the next preseason friendly. I saw a thing on Twitter, I can't remember if it was Matt Doyle maybe, where apparently DeMarcus Beasley kind of jokingly had a word with the Red Bull bench of like, can you get this kid to stop running at me?
I think Ben tweeted about that game and maybe his interaction with DeMarcus Beasley afterwards. John Adams, not that one, scouting Sheon Harrison, the 20-year-old English striker on loan at Southend United from Tottenham. Sheon got the second start of his loan and played the full 90 in Southend's 3-1 win over Portsmouth. Harrison was involved in the game's first goal when his dribbling forced an own goal from Portsmouth defender Matthew Clark. Sheon missed an open header, but manager Chris Powell still seemed happy with his efforts, though Sheon appeared to play wide left, which is strange given that Southend played a 4-4-2, and Harrison tends to be a striker, so maybe they're just trying him somewhere else.
Just play wherever you're asked. Chris Davey is scouting Eric Aguirre, the 20-year-old Mexican left winger for Pachuca. Aguirre has started every game in the Clausura and looks to be Pachuca's first-choice winger. This past weekend, Aguirre registered his first assist of the Clausura when he put in a nice cross for Pachuca's lone goal in their 1-1 draw against Chivas.
Well done, Eric. Eric, C.K. Kirsten Muladinha. E-R-I-C-K. I always feel the need to note that whenever it's an Eric. Kirsten Muladinha scouting Briel Embolo. Briel Embolo?
Yeah.
21-year-old.
That's how the Fox commentators do it, so...
I think Kirsten also sent us a proper pronunciation, and it was consistently forget.
Yeah.
21-year-old Swiss forward for Schalke. The Briel Embolo train is getting back on track. Briel started his second consecutive game, the first time he's done so since September of 2016, and he scored 2 goals. But one was a bit harshly called back for offside by VAR. Weston McKennie wasn't too pleased about that, tweeting out that they took his goal away with a series of sad faces. Lots of Weston McKennie on social media in this game. Embolo's second can best be described as a gift from Hoffenheim. They were passing around the back with the goalie out of the box, and Embolo pounced on an attempted pass at the edge of the area to score virtually uncontested.
Phil Andreani is scouting Andre Green, the 19-year-old English winger for Aston Villa. He's a local lad as well. Following an extended layoff after a right hamstring injury, Green made his return to football, netted 3 goals in as many games for Villa's U23s. However, he then picked up an injury to his left hamstring and missed out on Villa's 2-0 loss to Fulham. The extent of the injury and timetable for return are currently unknown. Oh no, I've assigned an injured player.
It seems that way. It seems that way. Mason Posner scouting Reece Oxford, 19-year-old English defender on loan at Borussia Mönchengladbach from West Ham for now. Oxford's recall to parent club West Ham was short-lived as he was sent back on loan to Borussia Mönchengladbach on January 31st. After sitting on the bench for 2 games, Oxford started at right back in Gladbach's 1-0 loss to Dortmund on February 18th. Oxford played all 90 minutes and was active on both offense and defense. Rumors continued to indicate that he wanted to return to Germany and that Gladbach would very much like to make that move permanent.
Seems like a lot of the English youngsters who go to Germany are sort of like,
oh, this is good.
This is much better.
I get chances and everybody focuses on my development. Yeah. Okay.
And the public transport works?
Yeah.
I'm sure these kids aren't taking public transport.
I'm sure they are not.
Final scouting update. I'm sure we'll get a report on it because our Josh Sargent scout does a very good job. But worth noting that today, Josh Sargent's 18th birthday, he signed the contract with Werder Bremen. So he is now officially a Werder Bremen football player.
So he has less than 15 months to make your prediction come good?
Plenty of time.
Okay.
Plenty of time for him to supplant Gabriel Jesus.
I feel like we're going to get into a lawyer-esque argument about what supplant means come May 2nd, February 19th.
Buy yourself a dish.
2019.
Thank you to everybody for submitting scouting reports today. We will be back tomorrow to review the Champions League games. Up on the big screen, it's going to be Man United Sevilla. Down on the little screen, it's going to be Roma Shakhtar.
We think. That would make sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, yeah. So we expect a blowout on the little screen, one way or another. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We're off to go to soccer practice, but we'll be back tomorrow with the Champions League review.